Protein. Is it bad? Is it good? Does it help you with weight loss and satiety, or is it increasing your mTOR and causing cancer? This is particularly controversial when it comes to animal protein. One of the experts I respect most in this field is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and she's a personal friend of mine, and I've had the privilege of having many discussions with her around these topics, and she does an absolutely phenomenal job of synthesizing the literature and making sense of so much conflicting information that's out there on this topic. So check out this little clip, and also make sure to listen to the full-length podcast, and you can find the link for that in the description down below this video. Enjoy.
Initially, the powers that be released the food guide pyramid. And they said, eat low fat, eat lots of carbohydrates and grains and fruits and vegetables, right? So we did that, and everybody got obese. 50% of the population got obese. Everybody got fat. So that was a mistake. I mean, that was a big mistake. Then we said, don't eat dietary cholesterol because that's what's going to change, affect your cholesterol. And we made all these fat recommendations, which they have also gotten wrong. So now we've gotten the carbohydrate story wrong, and we've gotten the cholesterol and fat story wrong. So it stands to reason that perhaps the anti-protein story is also wrong. I just want to point that out. So if history were the trajectory of history as we see it now has gotten every recommendation wrong, it would stand to reason this also would be wrong.
Yeah. Well, also there's the whole Gary Taubes carbohydrate insulin theory of obesity, and that's been put to the test in, metabolic ward studies, for example, by Kevin Hall in recent years. And
yes,
they've shown at equal levels of calories, there aren't differences between the low carb ketogenic groups and the higher carb, lower fat groups. So we've gotten all kinds of things wrong over the years with nutrition.
right.
Yeah.
So it would stand to reason that people like Joel Fuhrman and Walter Longo, who recommends 0.3 grams of protein per kilogram or something well below the RDA, which most of us don't agree with the RDA in the professional space, but we know that it's the bare minimum to prevent disease. And we can all agree on that. Mm-hmm. That's what it's in place for. So to then further recommend below that is devastating. It's devastating for an aging population.
Let's dig into that with a bit more nuance, because there's some diseases, I believe, that do show some benefit, for example, from more of a vegetarian, low protein intake, but there's also this potential for disease substitution. You may be lowering your risk for some diseases and increasing your risk for other diseases. Are there any specific diseases that are associated with low protein intake?
Sarcopenia, which directly relates to mortality and morbidity. I mean, you are sarcopenic, you fall and break a hip, you will not survive. You will never walk again.
And that is one of the leading causes of death in old age population, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean, cachexia, people that get cancer with no muscle mass, you will not survive. Mm. So, would you rather be small and frail? Osteoporosis. We know that if you're not getting enough protein, your bones will be brittle. Mm-hmm. Protein makes bone, period. And for me personally, I am not wedded to either side. I just have seen it in clinical practice at the end of life. Mm-hmm. I come from a very different perspective. Mm-hmm. I've studied nutrition for over a decade professionally, and when you have studies that are like Walter Longo who is an editor of Cell, publishes a paper where the world leading protein experts all get together and write a petition to say, you have statistically made numbers that are incorrect. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't get published because he's an editor of the magazine or editor of the professional journal. Mm-hmm. This is a problem.
Yeah.
This is something other than science. This is propaganda. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is.
Yeah.
Anyone who's had aging parents would say, oh, I'm going to have them eat less red meat. When calories are controlled, red meat has never been shown to cause heart disease, hypertension, anything that it's being said, cancer. None of this is real.
Mm-hmm. And to be clear, there is quite a bit of negative research around processed meats, like cold cuts, bacon, things of that nature, sausages. That's my understanding. But unprocessed red meat is what you're referring to, correct?
So unprocessed red meat, definitely. But I will tell you, the Annals of Internal Medicine published a group of papers that put processed and unprocessed meats through a gradation evaluation of data, which is the same data that we use to determine that trans fats were bad. Mm-hmm. And they found that there was no high quality evidence that we need to cut back on red meat or processed meat.
Wow.
And that's just the facts. And this was so emotional for people because they weren't talking about radishes or whatever, beets, that they tried to actually attack this researcher. Oh, he got industry funding, all of this stuff, which was nonsense. Mm-hmm. Because people are, at a very core against eating animals. Mm-hmm. And I can appreciate that opinion and I can appreciate that emotional response, but you cannot tell people that it is better for their health because it is not.
Hey, this is Ari. I hope you enjoyed this little clip. And if you want to listen to the full-length podcast, the link for that is down in the description below. Also, one more thing before you go, I want to mention, in case you don't already know about it, our formula, Energenesis. This is an amazing product that has multiple compounds in it that are scientifically proven in numerous studies to increase your energy levels, not just by 3% or 5% or 10%, but by 30 or 40 or 50% in a very, very short time frame. So one of these compounds that I'll mention here is called NT factor phospholipid, and it is an extract of phospholipids that comes from lecithin, and they extract the pure phospholipids from this, things like phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylethanolamine, and many others. And these are the same fatty acid compounds, phospholipid compounds, that compose our cell membranes and mitochondrial membranes. And this specific patented formula has been shown actually to enter into the bloodstream undigested, basically, without being broken down and denatured through the digestive process in the stomach and the intestines. It makes it into the bloodstream and actually makes it all the way to our cells and to our mitochondria, where it helps repair damaged mitochondrial membranes and facilitates our mitochondria functioning better. Now, all of that sounds like wonderful theory, and it sounds like it could be beneficial, but the real test is, has it actually been studied and been proven to increase your energy levels? And the answer is yes, absolutely. There are numerous studies outlined in a wonderful paper by a scientist named Garth Nicholson in a paper called Lipid Replacement Therapy. I highly recommend checking this out if you're interested in digging into the research. But this compound has been studied in the context of multiple different kinds of chronic fatigue. Aging-related chronic fatigue, obesity-related chronic fatigue, obscure things like Gulf War illness, and numerous studies in chronic fatigue syndrome. And there are studies showing that this has the capability. They've taken one study, in fact, actually showed that in elderly adults over the age of 65, it restored their mitochondrial health, which had deteriorated heavily. It restored it to the level of healthy 29-year-olds, believe it or not. And they've actually measured energy levels in these people. And all of these studies across the board show improvements in energy of at least 25% and typically more like 35 to 45% in just the span of between 4 to 12 weeks. That's how long all of these studies are, 4 to 12 weeks. They're showing dramatic, huge improvements in energy levels by helping to repair these mitochondrial membranes through this thing called lipid replacement therapy, using, again, this patented form of a phospholipid extract called NT factor. This is just one of about 20 ingredients proven to benefit mitochondrial health that you'll find in my formula, Energenesis. So I strongly encourage you, if you are struggling with your energy levels, if you're dealing with chronic fatigue, go grab yourself a bottle or 3 of this, or subscribe and save. Try it out. You are going to be blown away by the results. We get so many testimonials. We get so many emails from people talking about how this one thing has transformed their lives. So I cannot encourage you strongly enough to give this a shot. And let's say you buy 3 bottles, try out the first one, give it a month. And if you don't notice significant improvements, you can return the unopened bottles to us for a full refund. So give it a shot. I really think you're going to be blown away by the results. The formula is called Energenesis, and you can get it at theenergyblueprint.com or click the link below. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you again very soon.